I don't want to skim over this without the thrivers watching this really getting this, because I think that I used to see it incorrectly. And I think that my ignorance of this area, it causes you to kind of misjudge or you almost see opportunities incorrectly. Mm-hmm. But they're not making money off of the initial franchise fee. Their money is made off the royalty, right? So they want you to be successful. Absolutely. So this is how they make money, is off this fee.
I've had many clients say, I really would like to do more than one unit, but I'm concerned about not being there watching the cash register every day. So I always ask the question, well, how important do you think it is that the franchisors develop systems and controls to watch that cash register for you? Because if it's not being watched, they're not going to get their share of it. So there's a lot of elements that tie into that success.
What's the average royalty percentage of gross sales that I should expect to pay to the franchisor if I decide to go out there and buy a franchise?
It'll range typically a low of about 5% and can be a high of 15%, depending on what the franchisor is providing in addition related to that royalty.
So 5 or 15% is sort of that. And again, some businesses it's higher, some it's lower. So no matter what kind of franchise you're looking at buying or which one you maybe own, 5 to 15% tends to be sort of that average.
And at one point, 7-Eleven was charging a 75% royalty. And people said, how could that be? But they were also providing all the elements that business owner needed, including covered their rent. It actually covered the cost of goods for what they purchased. Everything was tied together for them. And all they needed to do was share 75% of their revenues, and the other 25% stayed with them. Now, that's an exception to the rule.
Now, on behalf of the common man watching this, and on behalf of myself here, I understand that there's essentially two different types of royalties out there. You've got a fixed, it's basically a percent-based, or there's a fixed royalty. Can you walk me through what a percent-based royalty is, or how that works?
The percent base is what we were just describing, is that based on typically your monthly revenues, you will submit a royalty payment to the franchisor based on the license agreement. If it's 5%, you do $100,000. Obviously, you're going to calculate that, and it's going to be due to the franchisor, typically on a monthly basis. Some franchisors require it to be submitted weekly, electronically. More of those are happening.
Now, what is a fixed royalty?
Some franchisors just charge you a flat rate monthly as your royalty, regardless of how much business you do.
I can see how that could sort of motivate you to get serious and start selling some stuff if you have a fixed monthly royalty you're paying, right?
Yeah, it can be beneficial. Okay. And there are a few franchisors that find that that's the best way to, in their particular industry, to operate their relationship around royalties.
In your mind, which one's more common, the fixed or the percent?
The percentage is by far more common.
Now, I've seen in many cases within the franchising world where the amount kind of is reduced over, to take an example, like maybe your first 100,000 of sales, it's 5%, but then your next 100,000, it's 3%, and the next, do you see that a lot, or is that common, or?
It's fairly common. Okay. Even in our own companies, our franchises, we do a scale where we incentivize them to do more business. Okay. And they pay a lower royalty percentage as a result of that.
So the fabulous fee structure number 2 that I want to dive into, we talked about just a little bit there, is this whole fixed royalty. So the fixed royalty thing, I want to get into the ins and outs of this, because I think a lot of people who maybe are looking into a franchise that has one, they may think this is a bad deal, or maybe some people who own one may think it's a bad deal. What is the benefit of having a fixed royalty for the franchisor?
For the franchisor, it's predictability, and also incentivizing. It has a motivational and incentivized aspect to have franchisees actually aspire to grow to a higher level than they might normally, because it'll be a reduced expense for them. In a percentage royalty, the more they do, the more they pay. So there's benefits to the franchisor to fix that. It has a nice relationship aspect to it. The downside is in the early stages, when a franchisee is just coming on board, they sometimes are reluctant about that commitment because they're not sure what their volume is going to be.
What about from the franchisee perspective? How is a fixed royalty maybe a benefit to them, or how could it be perceived as a bad thing?
Yeah, predictability. And the idea that in many cases, franchisees that are more successful, meaning they're leveraging the system more, doing more volume, actually require less support and help from the franchisor. So having a fix can also help you understand that.